I believe that there is a consensus among nationalists that the COVID lockdown and countermeasures are nefarious and that COVID is merely an excuse for things that they, whoever they are, wanted to do all along. I looked at data from Ireland covering the period from the 20th of February to the 16th of October. There are about 1,616 deaths and 50,845 cases. I have transcribed some of the tables. It is now well known in nationalist circles that the deaths are inflated by people with comorbidities. In Ireland this is the case too. Almost all of the deceased had comorbidities. Only 29 people did not, but 58 are unconfirmed, so I will assume that they had none. From the cases without comorbidities and the deaths, we can establish a death rate for COVID. We can apply this death rate to the cases with comorbidities to estimate how many people with comorbidities died of COVID independently of their comorbidity. I calculate 110 such cases. So far there are only 197 purely COVID deaths, not 1,616. We must look further at the comorbidities to give an idea of what they are. Here we see what they are: chronic diseases of the heart, liver, kidneys, brains and lungs, cancer, diabetes, obesity, hypertension and others. Note also the median ages of the victims. We have 84-year-olds with chronic heart disease, and we are surprised to find that they have died. Note also the life expectancy in Ireland, 84 years old. How many of these people would have died this year anyway? This is a question that interests me. Note also that many of these people had more than one of these comorbidities. We have to consider how many people died with COVID but not from it, and then deaths due to both comorbidities and COVID, whichever one was the main culprit. I will try to estimate the comorbidity-only deaths. Data from 2016 gives population by age group and deaths by age group. I will use this to estimate a COVID-free death rate for 2020. The death data is not segregated in the same ranges as the COVID data, so I will need to split up some of the death totals. To do this, I take the populations at each age, and I assume that the drop-off is due to deaths. I am looking at ages over 60. Therefore, I can estimate how many deaths from 75 to 84 belong in the 65 to 79 bracket. I do this and I estimate populations and deaths for the age ranges, with death rates on COVID. I apply this to the case numbers and estimate values for how many of those deaths were due to comorbidities only. However, we can do better since we know the median age of the cases. Half of the people will have a higher death rate than the other half, since the death rate is not constant across age. I do this and estimate the death rates in the age ranges above and below the median ages. By this method, I estimate new values for comorbidity-only deaths in the older age groups. Thus, there are two estimates for the comorbidity-only deaths. I will take the second estimate as I consider its derivation to be more rigorous. Now I estimate that 915 deaths were due only to comorbidities and 197 only to COVID. COVID played a role in 504 deaths. Therefore, I feel that a value of 701 deaths is more accurate than 1,616. However, we can split the 504 mixed deaths along the lines of non-mixed deaths, leaving a new total of 286 due or primarily due to COVID. At this point, people may point to 286 deaths, an estimated death rate, and find that it's comparable to the flu, but I find that the 915 figure is more interesting. Even if we protected everyone from COVID, there would still be 915 quote deaths, according to my calculations. There would still be an excuse for the measures against COVID, and so they would continue even if nobody actually died from COVID. Even after everyone were safe from COVID, the countermeasures, be they lockdowns now or vaccine passports later, would never end. People seem to think that we must put up with the restrictions on our lives until they are no longer needed, but it seems that we either reject them or never stop putting up with them. There is no until. We either give up our freedom permanently or we do not. Therefore we should not.